Good morning, students. Today I'm going to present this video for class 8 science and I'm going to talk about reproduction in animals. So let's begin with it. So this is chapter 9, reproduction in animal. So first thing is what is reproduction and why it is important for living organisms. So reproduction is the process by which organisms produces offsprings of their own kind. What does that mean? That means when a human being reproduces, it forms a human being. When a tiger reproduces, it forms a tiger. When a bacteria reproduces, it forms a bacteria. So you see, different living forms they required to produce their young ones of their own kind. This process is called reproduction. Now, a very important question is why reproduction is important. So, for that, you need to understand every living organism are mortal. They have a particular lifespan, and after that particular lifespan, they have to die. So, every organism will die one or the other day, but the life needs to be continued on the planet Earth. So, for the continuity of life on planet Earth, this particular process, which is called reproduction, is important. Fine. Next thing is about types of reproduction. Not all the organisms reproduce in the same manner. So we have different types of reproduction. First type is called asexual reproduction and another type is called sexual reproduction. So let's just talk both the kind of reproduction in detail. First thing is asexual reproduction. Now, what is this asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction is a kind of reproduction in which only one parent is involved. For example, you must have studied earlier as well that how bacteria divides. There is a mother bacteria which divides to form the daughter bacteria. For example, amoeba, it divides and forms daughter amoebae. So, where only one parent is involved or uniparental is there, that kind of a reproduction is called asexual reproduction. Example are amoeba, yeast, bacteria, paramecium. A lot of examples are there for asexual reproduction. Now, for asexual reproduction also, there are various methods we can observe in the nature. And in animals, two very common methods which can be observed are binary fission and budding. So let's talk about these two processes, binary fission and budding. So the first process is binary fission. You must have studied in computers as well. Binary stands for two, right? And fission stands for division. So binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction in which the parent cell, which is also called a mother cell, can divide to form two daughter cell. Just observe this particular example. So focus on the diagram. Here you can see we have a mature amoeba, full grown amoeba, and what we see that this amoeba undergo division. This is a mother amoeba, right? So in these kind of division, we observe one thing that the nucleus divide first and then cytoplasmic division take place. So just see how nucleus got stretched, and in the third step the nucleus is divided into two, and then the cytoplasm or body of the amoeba divides and it forms two daughter cell. So in this way binary fission take place where a mother cell divides to form the daughter cell. Example, you can talk about amoeba, you can talk about euglena, paramecium. Most of the protozoans they divide by this particular process which is called binary fission. The next process is called budding. Now, what is this budding? In this type of process, what happens in the body of a parent, a full grown, mature a parent, an outgrowth appears on the body, which is called a bud. So, this outgrowth is called a bud, which develops a little and then gets detached from the parent's body. So, the process by which a bud develops into a young one is called budding. Just observe this particular diagram where we have hydra. So the hydra, in the parent hydra, a small outgrowth you can observe in the second image. This outgrowth is called a bud, and later this bud develops the mouth and tentacles just like the parent, and further, once it grows a little, the bud along with mouth and the tentacles now, which has grown a bit, now it get detached from the parent's body. Fine. So this process of division, this process of reproduction is called budding. Budding we can see in hydra, we can also see in yeast, and there are other organisms as well where we can observe budding. So these are two types of asexual reproduction in animals. Now let's just talk about sexual reproduction. So, sexual reproduction is a kind of reproduction where two parents are involved. There will be a male parent and will be a female parent. So, it is biparental in nature. And in this type of reproduction, gametes are involved. Gametes are basically sex cells. So, when this gamete fuse together, they undergo zygote formation. So, sexual reproduction is a kind of reproduction where fusion of male and female gametes can be seen, and it results in zygote which develops into an individual organism. Fine. So generally we see sexual reproduction in case of higher animals, plants, etc. So, when we talk about sexual reproduction, for understanding purpose, we have divided the events of sexual reproduction into four different categories. First one is gamete formation, second is gamete transfer, third is fertilization, and fourth is embryo formation and embryo development. So, let's talk about all these things. First is gamete formation. So as I told you, once the animals they attain reproductive maturity, in their body formation of gametes take place. These gametes are basically sex cells. Now when we talk about male gamete, the sperm or spermatozoa, they are the male gamete, and when we talk about female gamete, ova is the female gamete. So this gamete forms when the organism achieves their reproductive maturity. Next is gamete transfer. So, for this male gamete and female gamete to fuse, it is important that both the gametes meet together. So, this reaching of or transfer of male gamete to reach to the female gamete, this is called gamete formation, which take place by different means. Fine. So, this is called gamete formation and gamete transfer. Now, the next process is fertilization. Fertilization is a process in which male and female gamete they fuse with each other to form a zygote. So this fusion of male and female gamete is called fertilization. And fertilization, as I told you, that it can occur by different means. So there are two types of fertilization. One is called internal fertilization, and another is called external fertilization. So the first one is internal fertilization. So this is a type of fertilization in which fusion of male and female gamete take place inside the female's body. If I talk about a human being, the fusion of male and female gamete take place in the fallopian tube or oviduct of a female reproductive system. So this kind of fertilization can be seen in mammals, for example, humans, cows, horses, dogs, all these kind of creatures. And second is external fertilization, which is a type of fertilization in which fusion of male and female gamete take place outside the female's body. So where outside? In the water. So there are creatures which releases both male and female gametes. They both release their gametes into the water. and then the male gamete will reach to the female gamete where the fusion will take place. So this type of fertilization is called external fertilization. We can see these kind of fertilization in frogs, starfishes, fishes, etc. Now the last step is embryo formation and its development. So let's just first understand this process by with the help of diagram, then we'll go into the process. So just focus on first image. In the center, you'll be able to see this is a female reproductive system where ovary is present, oviduct is present, uterus, and rest of the body part, rest of the reproductive part is there. Now just focus in the picture where it is written fertilized egg. Right, so that is basically an ova, and different sperms are trying to fuse with the ova. But you remember one thing, it is only one sperm which can fuse with the ova. Fine. So once the fusion of male and female gamete will take place, it forms a single celled zygote. This zygote then undergo various divisions. So the zygote undergoes multiple division and it forms embryo. This embryo then getting implanted into the uterus of the female. What is implantation? I'll tell you little later. So first the embryo will get implanted into the uterus of the female, and there it develops into a full young one. Fine. So you can understand this by this particular diagram. Now let's focus on the second image. Right here you can see how the embryo is coming down into the uterus, and at the end, at day 8 or 9, it is entering into the wall of uterus. This is called implantation. So what is implantation? Implantation is a process in which the embryo enters into or get embedded into the wall of uterus. Fine. So this is a diagrammatic representation of embryo formation and then the development of embryo into a young one. So let's just jot down the whole process. So what did we saw? We saw that sperm and ova, they fuse together to form a single celled zygote, and then the zygote undergoes multiple division and it forms an embryo. This embryo gets implanted into the wall of the uterus of the mother, and there it develops into a young one. Fine. So this is the entire process of sexual reproduction, right from gamete formation to the development of full term young one. So a single exercise question for you. What kind of fertilization can be observed in fishes? Internal fertilization or external fertilization? So I want you to answer this particular question, and that is it. Thank you.